Hey, everybody, it's your old pal Adam the Bull. What is with my mic this morning? My mic sounds funny to me. Test one. I don't know what is going on here. What is happening? Check 1, 2. Check. All right. Well, we'll do it. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I look yellow today. My camera's a little off. I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but we'll start the podcast anyway. Browns will play the Cincinnati Bengals this Sunday. We will find out, are they legit? Or are they beep? That's coming up. The Cavaliers are the big game, as big a game as can be in the regular season, when they take on the Los Angeles Lakers tonight. We'll get to that. Plus, the winter meetings is underway. What is happening for the Cleveland Guardians? That's all coming up in the bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the bullpen with Adam the Bull.
All right, here we are. We are back. It is Tuesday, December the 6th, 2022, but it won't be 2022 much longer. We've got lots coming up, right? New Year's Eve right around the corner, 25 days away. The Buckeyes will play on New Year's Eve, but we got plenty to get to before that. The Browns and the Bengals this Sunday. What is real? Do the Browns have some magical hold of the Bengals? Has it been coincidence? Is it matchups make fights? We're going to find out. A lot's been made of the Browns' success against Joe Burrow. The Browns are 4-0 against Joe Burrow in his 3 years in the league, which is pretty impressive. Now, I look at that and I say, well, the first year the Bengals were a bad team. Joe Burrow was a rookie. He wasn't the same player he's been the last 2 years. So even if we take those two out, it's still the last 2 years. Last year, the first matchup. This year, the first matchup. Not only did the Browns win those games, but they dominated. But in my mind, this domination over Burrow is really the last two games that stand out because the Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year, and they look like a Super Bowl contender again this year. So this game in Cincinnati is really going to tell me, is there something to this? Have the Browns really improved here? Or have they just caught a break playing against a not very good team in Tampa Bay that's a little overrated because they have Tom Brady, and the worst team in football against Houston? This is where it becomes real. Because if the Browns do take care of business against the Bengals again in Cincinnati, where they opened as a 4.5-point dog and now are a 6-point underdog, then get to play the Ravens maybe without Lamar Jackson, then 500 is realistic, and then the slim possibilities of making the playoffs become a little less slim. Even if they win the next two to get to 7-7, they're still not highly likely to make the playoffs, but it becomes a reasonable conversation to have at that point. But it all starts this Sunday against the Bengals. When you look at the matchup, here's what's fascinating to me about this, because this game, more than any of the matchups between the Browns and Joe Burrow, will really tell the story, more than any. Because in the first year they played, obviously Burrow was a rookie. The Browns were the better team. They were the much better team that year. And the Browns went to the playoffs that year. The Bengals stunk. So no surprise that the Browns won those two games. Last year, when they played the first matchup, we didn't know how good the Bengals were, but still, that was really a really impressive win against the Browns. The Browns had some clear advantages in the matchup. Turned out the Bengals were obviously the better team. The Browns had some clear advantages. This year, again, Bengals clearly the better team at this point, but the Browns still had some advantages. Now, when you look at this matchup, with Jamar Chase back, with Joe Mixon back, with the Browns playing the worst they've ever played, well, not ever, but the worst they've played on the offensive line in a long time. You look at the matchups that, like, where I look for where did the Browns, like, the only reason, honestly, to pick the Browns is because of this hold they've had over Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I can't find another argument. The Browns don't really have an advantage. Like, yes, the combo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is better than the combo of Mixon and Samaje Perine. However, one area that, like, the Browns have won these games A big part of the reason they've won these games against the Bengals, especially the last 2 years, is because they've had a huge edge in the trenches. But I don't think that exists right now. The Bengals' offensive line, which was terrible last year and was terrible to start this season, the Bengals' offensive line is completely different from last year. Same left tackle. Other 4 guys are all new. 3 veterans they brought in from other teams and 1 rookie. Well, they were playing poorly in the beginning of the season, including when the Browns played them. Now they're playing their best football. On the other hand, the Browns' offensive line is playing their worst football. Obviously, some of it due to injury. The Ethan Pochich injury has been huge, much bigger than we would have thought at the beginning of the year. Wyatt Teller, I'm going to assume he's still not right because he's not playing well. And we've seen this guy. When he's right, he's one of the best guards in football, and he's not playing well. Both tackles are struggling, so the Browns' offensive line is a bit of a mess right now. The Bengals' defensive line comes in fully healthy. When the Browns played the Bengals the first time this year, DJ Reader, the Bengals' best run stopper, was hurt. Now he's healthy. The Bengals' defensive ends, including Ohio State's own Sam Hubbard, playing their best football. So when I look obviously for years, the Browns O-line has had a big advantage over the Bengals defensive line. And for the first time in a long time, I don't think that's the case. I think right now, it may not turn out to be in the game, but I think right now the Bengals D-line has an advantage over the Browns O-line. Now, what about the other way? You know, the Browns defensive line obviously hasn't been great. They struggle in the middle, but the Bengals have struggled in the middle too. So it ended up being kind of a wash, and the Browns would have that outside advantage where Myles Garrett could take advantage of Jonah Williams. Now, they still have that advantage. Myles Garrett against Jonah Williams is a big mismatch in favor of the Browns, but that's it. The rest of the Bengals offensive line will probably hold up well against the Browns defensive line, and you'd think if Zach Taylor's smart at all, they'll have a game plan for trying to double-team Myles Garrett on every play now that their offensive line is much more cohesive. If the Bengals win the battle in the trenches, the Bengals will not only win this game, they'll win it going away. That's how I see it, because when you look at the rest of the team, I mean, right now, listen, I am 100% all in for trading for Deshaun Watson. And I think Deshaun Watson will eventually, for the Browns, as I've said time and time again, be a top 5 NFL quarterback. But he's not there right now, and the idea that he's going to get there in 1 week is unlikely. Even if he makes major improvement, right now the Bengals, at the moment, the Bengals have a big advantage quarterback. I think for the next 5 years it'll be neck and neck, but I think right now the Bengals have the big advantage. Obviously, the Bengals have much better wide receivers. They have lost their tight end Hayden Hurst, but we don't know if David Njoku is going to play this week either. And Hurst obviously not as important as Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon to the Bengals offense. I think it's a fascinating game. I still think it's a toss-up. I think there are something to be said for some mental hurdles. And you remember these 2 wins that the Browns have had over the Bengals, over Joe Burrow the last 2 years, it started with the Bengals driving and then a turnover, give the Browns the ball early. And if that happens again, all of a sudden, the Bengals have this confidence when they play the Chiefs, for example, right? We talk about the Browns dominating the Bengals. The Bengals have beaten the Chiefs 3 times in a row, right? They have a confidence, a swagger that they expect things to go right. Against the Browns have that swagger against the Bengals that they think things are going to go right, even if it goes bad against other teams and vice versa. So it's still going to be fascinating. I think the key is the start of the game. We'll get more into who I think is going to win, obviously, later. But if the Browns win this game, this will be, to me, more than any of the game. And it was impressive that they beat Joe Burrow with Baker in the middle of last year. It was impressive that they beat Joe Burrow with Jacoby Brissett early there this season. If the Browns win this game in Cincinnati, the way the Bengals are playing, and the idea that the Bengals would take the Browns lightly coming off a Chiefs win, 0. They know what the Browns have done to them, so there's no chance the Bengals are taking them lightly. So if the Browns come into Cincinnati and where the crowd is going to be hostile, it's going to be much worse for Deshaun. I don't know if it's going to affect him at all. We have no idea what's going on inside his head. But there's no doubt that no doubt in my mind, the crowd will be more hostile in Cincinnati than it was in Houston. I know he played in Houston. I know the alleged incidents took place in Houston, but the Texans fans have checked out. They don't care. That was clear. The Bengals fans are all in. That place is going to be packed. There'll be a lot of Browns fans there too. But the Bengals fans that are there are going to be loud and obnoxious. So that's going to be another factor as well. I can't wait for Sunday. I think the game's going to be really good. I think, unlike the last couple of times, I think it's going to be really close. I think it should be an exciting, hard-hitting game. All right, take a break. Talk some Cavaliers. Got to get to a few other things here in just a minute. But let me tell you something. I want to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Cleveland Cavaliers coming to action tonight, 15-9. They lost to the Knicks in a pretty awful performance on Sunday. That's just, I didn't even want to talk about that game because that was as bad a performance as the Cavs have had. Playing the Lakers tonight. The game's on national TV, TNT at 7:30, so it should be fun to hear Charles Barkley and Shaq and those guys talking about the Cavaliers. We are, getting 24 games in. I mean, there's 58 games left. So about at the approaching the 1/3 point of the season. Cavaliers at the moment. It's funny. 15-9 feels like a disappointment. And at the beginning of the season, if I would have said the Cavs are going to be 15-9 in third place in the East and be tied with the Memphis Grizzlies for the sixth best record in the NBA, we would have all been excited about that. But 15-9 feels like a disappointment because they've gone 7-8 since starting 8-1. And the one thing, though, they've been great at home. They've struggled on the road, not a surprise for a young team, but they are 10-1 at home. Nobody has lost less games than the Cavaliers. Now, some teams have played. The Celtics are 11-2. The Bucks are 11-3 at home. The Suns are 12-2. But the Cavs, who've only played 11 home games, 10-1 with the Lakers coming in. The Lakers have played better. They've won while the Cavs have been up and down lately. The Lakers have played much better. They've won 3 in a row, 8 of 10. Anthony Davis is coming in red hot in this game, and the Lakers, who would not be a playoff team if the season ended today, obviously are playing really well. They're coming off. They've been scoring a ton of points. Last 3 games: 128 against Portland, 133 in a wild win over the Bucks, 133-129. And then they beat the Wizards 130-119 in their last game. As I mentioned, Anthony Davis has been just insane in that win over the Wizards. He had 55 points. He was 22 of 30 from the field, which is just absurd. He also had 17 rebounds and 3 block shots. LeBron, who'd missed some time, had 29 in that victory over Washington. He had 8 rebounds and 6 assists. So the Lakers come in here to Cleveland tonight playing some very good basketball. So, so this is exciting. I'll be honest, there's been some games lately where the Cavs have played where I really just watched it because I felt like I had to. I wasn't that, and the way they were playing against the Knicks, I mean, that was just painful. I was really just on the background. With the Magic and the Raptors and the Pistons and some of these games, you're not that excited. But tonight's game is a really exciting one. Hopefully Jared Allen will be able to play. I know he, obviously he's been out. Chris Fedor said yesterday, I saw him tweet that he was questionable for tonight's game. Maybe there's a chance he's going to play. We shall see. I mean, that would be big to have him because to have him and Mobley to deal with Anthony Davis because, Anthony Davis is just insane right now. And that Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, is as good as it gets. The problem for him is he's not consistently healthy, but it should be fun. I'm looking forward to this game tonight on TNT. There's no football. There's no nothing. So So it'd be good to have the Cavaliers in the mix. Looking forward to that game tonight. After the Cavs play the Lakers tonight, they continue at home, so hopefully they can keep piling up home wins. They're playing Sacramento on Friday and Oklahoma City on Saturday, and obviously Oklahoma City not a very good team. Sacramento's been a surprise, and 13-9, fifth best record in the Western Conference, and that's when I know it's early, but you don't often see Sacramento in the playoff picture, but for now at least they are, and they've played good basketball. And Oklahoma City's actually won 3 in a row, and they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's having just a remarkable season. So they've played better. They've won 3 in a row and 4 of 6. So, while Oklahoma City, Lakers, and Sacramento might not be great teams, these should all be competitive games. But really, tonight is the one, that's with LeBron coming back, and again, that's the first time he's back, but with LeBron coming back again and Anthony Davis playing the way he is, hopefully Cavs can, Cavs obviously had a ton of injuries. There's been a ton of injuries in general in the NBA. Hopefully the Cavs can get Jared Allen back and get going for an exciting win tonight. All right, one final break, and then I'm going to talk some winter meetings, what's happening out in Arizona. That's coming up next right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. All right, so the Guardians, the winter meeting started in Arizona, or not in Arizona. Where are they? I don't even remember where they are. I don't know that. I can't remember if it's in Arizona or California. I guess it doesn't matter. My man, Zach Meisel, is down there. I was texting with him a little bit last night if there was anything on Sean Murphy. There's nothing new on Sean Murphy. There's been a lot of reports that Sean Murphy is going to get traded. Sean Murphy, for those who don't know, is a catcher with Oakland, 3 years of team control, very good offensive player for a catcher, and an excellent defensive player. Listen, at this point, as I was talking with my buddy Hans, shout out to my pal Hans, who's a huge Guardians fan. He was like, yeah, well, anybody would be an upgrade over Austin Hedges. That's true, but you don't just want an upgrade. You want a significant upgrade, and obviously Sean Murphy would be. But there's a lot of teams that are interested in Sean Murphy. The St. Louis Cardinals, who Yadier Molina just retired, they're going to be in on him, and that won't be it. I mean, a controllable catcher, reasonable salary, really good player is not an easy thing to get. So there's going to be a lot of teams. However, the Guardians may not have the most money, which is not important here. The Guardians have the prospect capital probably more than any of these teams. The Guardians are top 5 in terms of prospect value, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people that follow the sport. And so the Guardians, who, when it comes to free agency, always have a disadvantage because of money possibility, is not a factor here. This is about who's got the best prospect capital, and in this case, it is the Guardians. The question is, how deep are they willing to go? How much are they willing to give up? I think it's important for the Guardians to get a catcher that is proven. I know Bo Naylor's a good prospect. I get it. But the Guardians are relying on too many young players. It worked last year. There's no guarantee it's going to work again. It's likely that at least some of those young players will regress in year 2. It happens all the time in baseball. I'm not saying it's a 100% guarantee. I'm definitely not saying it's going to happen with every player, but the odds are that some of those guys will regress. Now, some of them will get better. They certainly have room to grow, but there will be some regression, and you don't want to rely on young players at every single spot, which is why I think we'd all like to see the Guardians get a more proven catcher and a more proven first baseman /DH. That market, we've heard a little bit about Josh Bell. I don't love the idea of Josh Bell. I'm okay with it. It's an upgrade. I would rather see them get a guy who's a little more consistent. Again, he'd give them the power that they're looking for. He's not great against lefties, which has been a problem. He is a switch hitter. And that's but he's better against righties, and they really need a corner guy that can hit lefties too. And they might need to get two guys. One guy we haven't talked about a lot is Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini, obviously longtime Oriole player, got traded to Houston at the end of last year. And he obviously finished out the season there, and he's a free agent. And Trey Mancini is a right-handed hitter who actually in his career, you look at his numbers in terms of batting average, on base, slugging percentage, OPS, right? Even if you look at his power numbers, he's really good against both. The numbers, now the power numbers are good. In terms of batting average and on base, he's just, he's solid, adequate, especially for a power hitter. But, it's amazing. He's played over 1,000 games in the big leagues. His career batting average against righties, 265. Lefties, 266. Career on-base percentage against righties, 330. Against lefties, 331. And career slugging percentage against righties, 456. Against lefties, 459. So there's a guy who can hit lefties. I'm starting to like the idea of Trey Mancini. Now, I haven't seen him enough defensively to, because how often am I watching the Orioles? I'm just not watching the Orioles play a lot. I haven't seen him enough defensively to give a strong opinion on how good his defense is. If you look at some of the analytics on him, he's not great defensively. But, I like to judge, especially first baseman, by the eye test. I feel like I'm an expert on first baseman. It's probably not true. But because I played my whole, child life at first base, I feel like I can tell how good a guy is by watching him. And I feel like I haven't watched Trey Mancini enough at first base. But the guy's obviously, that's his position. He's played it plenty. I'm not worried about it. I think he'd be good enough at first base. And he plays the outfield too. So he's really a flexible guy. He's played 2,100 innings at first base, 1,700 innings in left field, 700 innings in right field, and he's DH'd, of course, too. So I think and he's older. Trey Mancini, he'll be 31 at the beginning of the season. So you don't have to sign him to a big long-term contract. I don't know. I kind of like Trey Mancini a little more than I like Josh Bell. I think he's been more consistent. Last year he did not have a great year last year, to be fair. It was his worst year in a while. 710 OPS is not great. So the numbers dipped, so that might be a concern. But a lot of that was in Houston. He struggled after the trade. He really did not play. He did hit 8 home runs in 51 games, which is, pretty good. But he only hit 176. The on base wasn't good. But I don't know. I think that's an anomaly. He was still, solid for Baltimore last year. In 2021, solid. Again, guy's not a great player. Pick and choose. I think he's probably a better fit for the Guardians than Josh Bell because he can hit lefties better. He's more consistent both ways. That's how I see it. We shall see. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. That's where you get the alerts. If you click on the bell for this podcast, for the show, for any extras with the show, check out my website, AdamTheBull.com, Cameo Adam the Bull, and on Twitter, surprisingly enough, Adam the Bull. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.